The Awakening Crisis. The emergency alarms echoed through the crystalline halls of the Galactic Federation headquarters. Representatives from across the galaxy materialized in their designated chambers, some still adjusting their translation devices, others trembling with fear at the unprecedented summons. Zektar the Wise, eldest member of the Council and leader of the ancient crystalline collective, rose from his throne-like formation. His body, composed of living diamond-like structures, caught the chamber's lights and scattered them into rainbow patterns across the walls. For 3,000 years, he had guided the Federation through wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Fellow beings of the galaxy, his voice resonated through harmonic frequencies that every species could understand. We face extinction itself. The holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing the outer rim territories. Where once dozens of star systems had sparkled like jewels, now only empty darkness remained. Not destroyed, not conquered, simply gone, as if they had never existed at all. Lyra Moonwhisper, the ethereal diplomat whose people existed as beings of pure energy, spoke first. Her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The Kepler sector was home to 12 billion souls. The Andorian systems housed our greatest libraries. All of it, consumed in mere hours. Consumed by what? Demanded General Throck of the warrior Saurian Empire, his scaled hide bristling with agitation. Show us this enemy so we can crush it. Zektar's crystalline form dimmed with sorrow. That is the terror of it, General. We do not know what it is. Our scouts who venture too close simply cease to transmit. Their ships vanish from all sensors. Even quantum entanglement communicators go silent. Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Terra and Defense Force sat quietly in the human section of the chamber. At 52, she was considered young by galactic standards, representing a species that had only joined the Federation 60 years ago. Her dark eyes studied the holographic display with intense concentration, while other delegates argued and panicked. "What do your archives tell us, Ancient One?" asked the insectoid Queen Zara, her compound eyes reflecting multiple images of the display. "Surely in your vast memory you have encountered something like this?" Zektar's form pulsed with ancient knowledge being accessed. "There are whispers in the oldest records. Stories from before the first Federation was formed, before even my people reached the stars. They speak of the Void Whisper, an entity from beyond our dimension that feeds on reality itself." The chamber erupted in frightened chittering, growling, and harmonic distress calls from dozens of species. The very mention of interdimensional threats sent primal fears racing through even the most advanced civilizations. "Myths and legends!" General Throck roared, slamming his massive fist on his console. "We need weapons, not fairy tales." "Your weapons are useless against this enemy," Zektar replied solemnly. "The Void Whisper exists partially outside our reality. Our energy beams pass through it harmlessly. Our missiles detonate in empty space. It devours matter and energy equally, growing stronger with each system it consumes." Dr. Marcus Chen, the human physicist sitting beside Admiral Vasquez, leaned forward. "How do we know it's moving toward the core systems?" All eyes turned to the human. Dr. Chen was a slight man with graying hair and thick glasses, utterly unremarkable by galactic standards. His question was met with condescending looks from several delegates. "Because," Lyra answered with the patience reserved for children, "the consumption pattern shows a clear trajectory toward the galactic center. At its current rate, it will reach the first core worlds in 47 standard days." Admiral Vasquez stood slowly, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. "What if it's not heading somewhere? What if it's running from something?" The chamber fell silent. Even Zektar's harmonic resonance paused. "Explain," the ancient being commanded. Elena gestured to the display. "Look at the pattern again. It's not a straight line toward any particular target. It's erratic, almost desperate, like something fleeing in panic. Fleeing from what, human? General Throck's voice dripped with disdain. What could possibly threaten something that devours star systems? Dr. Chen adjusted his glasses. Maybe it's not supposed to be in our dimension at all. What if it's lost? The suggestion was met with scoffs and dismissive gestures from most of the assembly. Humanity was still considered the new kids in galactic society, a young, naive species that thought they could solve complex problems with simple solutions. Zektar, however, studied the humans with new interest. You speak of dimensions as if you understand them, Dr. Chen. Your species has barely mastered faster-than-light travel. We've been studying dimensional physics since before we joined the Federation, Marcus replied quietly. It's true we're newcomers to galactic society, but we've been looking at problems differently than established civilizations. Admiral Vasquez stepped forward. We'd like permission to investigate the entity directly. The chamber exploded in protests. Species after species voiced their objections. Humans were too inexperienced, too reckless, too primitive to handle such a cosmic threat. You would be consumed instantly, Lyra said with genuine concern. Better species than yours have tried and failed. Have they, though? Elena asked calmly. From what I understand, every species that's encountered this entity has tried to fight it or flee from it. Has anyone tried to communicate with it? General Throck's laugh was like grinding stone. Communicate with a force of cosmic destruction? Humans truly are as soft-minded as the rumors suggest. But Zektar was listening carefully. In his 3 millennia of existence, he had learned to recognize wisdom regardless of its source. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? Elena took a deep breath. We've developed experimental dimensional phase technology, ships that can partially exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. If Dr. Chen is right, and this entity doesn't belong in our reality, maybe we can help it find its way home. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Queen Zara spoke, her voice clicking with disbelief. You want to help the monster that's destroying our galaxy? I want to save our galaxy, Elena replied firmly. And sometimes the best way to defeat a monster is to realize it might not be a monster at all, just a frightened, lost creature that doesn't know how to get home. Dr. Chen nodded, pulling up his own holographic display. Our preliminary analysis suggests the entity's consumption pattern isn't random. It's trying to gather enough energy to break through dimensional barriers. But it's using the wrong approach. It's like trying to burn down a house to light a candle. Even if your theory is correct, Zektar said slowly, the risk is enormous. If you fail, you'll only feed more matter and energy to the entity. And if we do nothing, Elena countered, it consumes the entire galaxy anyway. At least this way we try something new. The debate continued for hours. Species after species argued against the human proposal. They were too young, too untested, too foolish to be trusted with the fate of trillions of lives. But as the night wore on and reports continued to arrive of more systems vanishing, even the most skeptical delegates began to waver. Finally, as dawn broke across the Federation capital world, Zektar called for a vote. The decision was close, closer than anyone had expected. When the final tally was announced, the human proposal had passed by a single vote. Admiral Vasquez bowed respectfully to the assembly. We won't let you down. You had better not, General Throck growled, because if you fail, there won't be anyone left to forgive you. As the delegates dispersed, Lyra approached the human contingent. Why? She asked Elena directly. Why risk everything on such a wild theory? Elena smiled sadly. Because in our short history, we've learned something that older civilizations sometimes forget. The universe is vast and strange, and sometimes the scariest thing you encounter is just another lost soul looking for home. We've been that lost soul before. Maybe it's time we helped another one find its way. Captain Jake Morrison, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings, finally spoke. When do we ship out, Admiral? Immediately, Elena replied. Dr. Chen, How long do you need to prepare the dimensional phase generators? 18 hours, assuming the Federation approves our resource requests. Zektar's crystalline form approached them. You will have whatever you need, but understand, if your compassionate theory is wrong, if this entity truly is a cosmic predator, you may have doomed us all. Elena nodded solemnly. Then we'd better be right. As the humans prepared to depart, word of their mission spread throughout the galaxy. Some called them heroes, others called them fools. But everyone watched and waited, because in 47 days they would all know whether humanity's greatest weakness, their tendency to empathize with their enemies, might just turn out to be their greatest strength. The impossible victory. 3 weeks later, the human fleet approached the edge of known space. The TDS Horizon, Admiral Vasquez's flagship, led a formation of 12 vessels, each one equipped with Dr. Chen's revolutionary dimensional phase technology. The ships looked different from typical human vessels, covered in strange crystalline arrays that seemed to bend light around them. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the TDS Defiant, watching his sensors with growing unease. Admiral, we're approaching the consumption zone. All normal matter readings are dropping to 0 ahead of us. Elena's voice crackled through the communication array. All ships, activate phase generators on my mark. Remember, we're not here to fight. We're here to talk. The fleet engaged their experimental systems simultaneously. Reality seemed to shift around them as the ships began existing partially in normal space and partially in dimensions humans couldn't even name. The effect was disorienting. Crew members reported seeing colors that didn't exist and hearing sounds that came from everywhere and nowhere. Dr. Chen, monitoring the dimensional readings from the Horizon's science bay, felt his pulse quicken. Admiral, I'm detecting massive spatial distortions ahead. The entity, it's bigger than we thought. It's not just consuming matter, it's bending space-time itself. As they pushed deeper into the affected region, the crew began to understand the true scale of what they faced. The Void Whisper wasn't simply a creature or a machine. It was a fundamental distortion in reality itself, a wound in the fabric of existence that grew larger with each passing moment. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the navigation station. "How do you communicate with something like that?" Elena studied the readings, her mind racing. "Dr. Chen, can you modulate our phase generators to match its dimensional frequency?" "I can try, but Admiral, if I'm wrong about the resonance patterns, we could be torn apart at the molecular level." "Do it." As the phase generators adjusted their output, something extraordinary happened. The chaotic distortions around the entity began to stabilize slightly, and for the first time since the crisis began, the consumption of matter slowed. Captain Morrison's voice was tight with excitement. "Admiral, it's responding. Whatever you're doing, it's working." But Dr. Chen's readings told a different story. The entity isn't just responding to our signals, it's trying to communicate back. These aren't random distortions, they're patterns, like language. Elena felt her heart racing. "Can you translate them?" "I'm trying, but it's like nothing we've ever encountered. The concepts it's expressing don't have equivalents in any known language. Wait, I think I'm getting something." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the strange harmonics of the dimensional phase generators. Dr. Chen worked frantically at his console, his face pale with concentration. It's afraid," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's lost and afraid and trying to go home. But every time it tries to break through to its own dimension, it just makes things worse." Admiral Vasquez closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. When she opened them again, her voice was steady and determined. "Can we help it? Maybe. If we can create a stable dimensional gateway using our phase generators as anchor points, we might be able to open a path back to its home dimension. But Admiral, we don't know what else might come through from the other side." Elena was quiet for a long moment, thinking of the trillions of lives depending on her decision. "Open the channel," All ships. When the fleet was connected, she spoke with quiet authority. This is Admiral Vasquez. What we're about to attempt has never been tried before. We're going to open a doorway between dimensions to help a lost entity return home. There are risks, unknown risks. Anyone who wants to withdraw has permission to do so. Not a single ship moved to retreat. Captain Morrison's voice came through clearly. We're with you, Admiral. Let's bring this lost soul home. The process took 6 hours, 12 ships working in perfect coordination, their phase generators creating a complex harmonic pattern that slowly began to tear a controlled hole in the fabric of space-time itself. The entity, sensing what they were trying to do, began to help, its own dimensional distortions aligning with their efforts. Dr. Chen monitored the growing gateway with a mixture of terror and amazement. Admiral, the rift is stabilizing. I'm reading dimensional signatures that match the entity's home frequency, but the energy requirements are enormous. We're pushing our systems far beyond their design limits. Hold together just a little longer, Elena urged her fleet. We're almost there. As the gateway opened fully, something beautiful and terrible happened. The Void Whisper, revealed in its true form for the first time, was not a monster at all. It was a creature of living light and impossible geometry, a being of pure thought and energy that had been trapped in the wrong reality for eons. Its joy at seeing the path home was a wave of emotion that washed over every human in the fleet, bringing tears to eyes that had seen too much war and loss. But as the entity began to move toward the gateway, alarms started blaring throughout the human fleet. Another presence was approaching through the dimensional rift, something vast and ancient and utterly alien. Admiral! Dr. Chen's voice was tight with panic. Something else is coming through. The dimensional readings are off the charts. Before anyone could react, a second entity emerged from the gateway. This one was even larger than the Void Whisper, but its intentions were clearly benevolent. As it approached the lost entity, the humans realized they were witnessing something unprecedented, a rescue mission across dimensions. The second entity communicated directly with the humans through their phase generators, its message clear despite the impossible language: gratitude. The lost entity hadn't been alone after all. Its people had been searching for it across multiple realities, and the humans had given them the beacon they needed to find their lost member. As both entities prepared to return to their home dimension, the Void Whisper turned back toward the human fleet. What it did next would be remembered for millennia throughout the galaxy. The entity reached out with its dimensional abilities and touched each human ship. In that moment of contact, it shared something precious: knowledge. Not just any knowledge, but an understanding of dimensional physics that would advance human science by thousands of years in an instant. Captain Morrison felt the knowledge flowing into his mind and laughed with pure joy. Admiral, it's giving us a gift. It's teaching us how to travel between dimensions safely. Dr. Chen was practically weeping as centuries of research questions were answered in seconds. This is incredible. With this knowledge, we can explore realities beyond imagination. We can help other lost souls find their way home. As the entities departed through the gateway, Admiral Vasquez gave the order to close the dimensional rift. The process was smoother now, guided by their new understanding of dimensional mechanics. Within minutes, space-time had healed itself, leaving only the human fleet and the memories of an impossible encounter. The journey back to Federation space took 2 weeks. When they arrived, they found a galaxy transformed by hope instead of fear. The news of humanity's success had spread to every system, and for the first time since the crisis began, people were looking up at the stars with wonder instead of terror. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was very different from the first one. This time, representatives arrived with celebration rather than panic in their hearts. Zektar the Wise rose as Admiral Vasquez entered the chamber. For the first time in anyone's memory, the ancient being's crystalline form was glowing with something that looked suspiciously like pride. "Admiral Vasquez," he said, his harmonic voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "you and your people have achieved the impossible. Not only did you save our galaxy, but you did it through compassion rather than conquest. You turned a destroyer into an ally simply by recognizing its pain and offering help." General Throck, who had been among humanity's harshest critics, stood and bowed deeply, a gesture of supreme respect among his people. "I was wrong about your species, Admiral. Your strength lies not in your weapons or your technology, but in your hearts. You saw a monster and chose to see a lost soul instead." Lyra Moonwhisper's ethereal form shimmered with joy. "The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. But more than that, you have taught us all something valuable about the power of empathy." Queen Zara clicked approvingly. "The Federation Council has voted unanimously to offer humanity leadership of the new Dimensional Defense Initiative. We believe that any species wise enough to befriend their enemies deserves to lead us into this new era of interdimensional exploration." Admiral Vasquez stepped forward, humbled by the recognition but thinking of the greater implications. "We accept, but not as leaders, as partners. What we accomplished out there wasn't just human ingenuity. It was the result of the Federation working together, sharing knowledge and resources. The entity we helped wasn't the last lost soul we'll encounter. There are other dimensions, other realities where beings might need our help." Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. "With the knowledge the Void Whisper shared, we can build stable dimensional gateways. We can explore safely, help others, and learn from civilizations we never imagined could exist." Captain Morrison, still grinning from the adventure, added, "And who knows, maybe some of those other dimensions have their own lost souls who need someone to help them find their way home." As the session concluded and the representatives began to disperse, Zektar approached the human delegation privately. "You realize what you've done, don't you? You've fundamentally changed how this galaxy approaches conflict. Instead of asking, 'How do we defeat our enemy?' future generations will ask, 'How do we help our enemy become our friend?'" Elena smiled, thinking of the beautiful entity of light that had once been feared as the Void Whisper. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needed. A reminder that sometimes the scariest thing you can encounter is just another lost soul looking for home. As humanity took its first steps into their new role as the galaxy's dimensional guardians, they carried with them a simple but revolutionary philosophy. Every monster might just be a friend you haven't helped yet, and every enemy might just be someone who needs to find their way home. The age of human diplomacy through dimension hopping had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.